What's even more interesting is how Whoopi Goldberg, someone who is worth tens of millions of dollars, views herself as a working class American. Let's take a look.
I appreciate
Whoopi Goldberg's recent remarks on The View about the struggles of working class Americans have ignited a fierce debate. Critics are accusing her of being shockingly out of touch given her immense wealth, multi-million-dollar homes, and decades of success in Hollywood. Goldberg, on the other hand, insists that she works for a living and that she understands the financial hardship that many Americans are facing today. This controversy has raised crucial questions about the disconnect between the media elite and the everyday struggles of ordinary people. In particular, commentators like Ana Kasparian have sharply criticized Goldberg's portrayal of herself as a member of the working class. They argue that this rhetoric is not only disingenuous, but also emblematic of a...
I appreciate that people are having a hard time. Me too.
Yeah.
I work for a living, okay? So I'm a working person.
Whoopi Goldberg's recent comments on The View about the struggles of
utter failure by the media elite to genuinely address the real struggles of ordinary Americans. Let's dive deeper into why this disconnect matters and explore what it reveals about the state of American media and the political class. The conversation on The View began innocuously enough with a discussion of the difficulties that many Americans face, especially in the wake of the 2020 presidential election. While some of the panelists on the show seemed to recognize that the Democratic Party's abandonment of working-class voters may have contributed to their loss, the conversation quickly veered into territory that many found troubling. Goldberg, in particular, tried to present herself as a person who relates to the struggles of ordinary working-class Americans. She said, "I appreciate that people are having a hard time. Me too. I work for a living. If I had all the money in the world, I would not be here." Her statement, which was met with laughter from her co-hosts, struck many as both tone-deaf and patronizing, given her wealth and celebrity status. Goldberg's assertion that she works for a living was followed by an explanation of her career as a talk show host, a job that she insisted requires hard work. While it's true that hosting a talk show involves demanding hours and considerable effort, the idea that Goldberg's experience can be equated with the financial hardship of someone working 2 or 3 low-paid jobs to make ends meet seems, at best, naive. Many critics, including Ana Kasparian, have pointed out that Goldberg's comment glosses over the vast differences between her luxurious lifestyle and the realities of people struggling to get by in America. Kasparian and others argue that, although Goldberg does indeed work hard in her own capacity, critics argue that this failure is particularly evident on The View. The show has often been a lightning rod for criticism due to its liberal political leanings and its focus on identity politics. While the panel frequently discusses issues of race, gender, and social justice, critics have accused the show of ignoring or downplaying the economic challenges that matter most to many Americans. That she understands the struggles of working-class Americans is fundamentally flawed. Goldberg's wealth, after all, is not a secret. She is a multi-millionaire with a career that has spanned decades in Hollywood. Her luxurious homes, financial security, and the lavish lifestyle that comes with such wealth place her far outside the lived experience of those who live paycheck to paycheck. The dissonance between Goldberg's words and her reality was particularly evident when she said, "I work for a living," in a context that implied she was somehow in the same financial boat as someone barely making ends meet. As Kasparian pointed out, it would be more honest for Goldberg to acknowledge her wealth. She could say something along the lines of, "I used to be poor, but that's not the case anymore," and express empathy for those who are struggling without pretending to be one of them. What makes this disconnect even more glaring is the fact that Goldberg is part of a broader group of media elites who have long been accused of being out of touch with the everyday concerns of average Americans. Her comments about working for a living and understanding financial hardship are not unique in this regard. Many high-profile figures in the media and the entertainment industries have been criticized for speaking on behalf of working-class Americans without truly understanding their struggles. This problem extends beyond The View and represents a larger issue within American media, where discussions of policy and economic hardship are often divorced from the lived experiences of the people they are supposed to represent. In many ways, Goldberg's comments underscore a systemic issue: the failure of the media elite to connect with or understand the real issues that affect ordinary people. For example, the show's tendency to prioritize issues like representation in Hollywood or corporate diversity initiatives can seem out of touch with the day-to-day economic concerns that most Americans face. Topics like rising healthcare costs, wage stagnation, and housing insecurity are often relegated to the background while discussions about cultural issues take center stage. As a result, The View is often seen as failing to address the economic needs of the working class. Focusing in conclusion, Whoopi Goldberg's recent comments on The View have sparked an important conversation about the disconnect between the media elite and the everyday struggles of ordinary Americans. While Goldberg's intentions may have been sincere, her remarks underscore a larger problem within American media, where the voices of working-class Americans are often marginalized or ignored, instead on ideological purity and identity politics. This disconnect between the media elite and the working class is not just a matter of tone deafness, it has serious political implications. The 2020 presidential election, as well as many recent elections, have shown that working-class voters, especially in key battleground states, feel abandoned by the Democratic Party. These voters, many of whom are white, Black, or Latino, have become increasingly disillusioned with the political establishment, which they see as catering to the wealthy and ignoring their economic concerns. Goldberg's comments, despite her well-meaning intentions, may reinforce the sense that the elites in the media and Hollywood do not truly understand or care about the struggles of everyday Americans. Furthermore, Goldberg's statement about being open-minded and conversing with people who disagree with her only added to the criticism. Many commentators, including Kasparian, have argued that The View often presents a narrow and one-sided perspective on political issues. While the panelists may claim to be open to diverse viewpoints, the show rarely provides a platform for voices that challenge the liberal consensus. Instead, it often seems to function as a megaphone for the same ideas that are popular among wealthy liberals, rather than a space for genuine debate or dialogue with the working class. The idea that Goldberg and her co-hosts regularly engage with people who disagree with them seems increasingly implausible, especially given the show's focus on ideological conformity. The failure to engage with working-class issues on shows like The View reflects a broader problem within the media landscape. While the media industry continues to be dominated by a small group of affluent, largely liberal elites, there is a growing disconnect between these figures and the people they claim to represent. This disconnect is not just a matter of politics, it's also about priorities. As more and more Americans struggle with economic hardship, the media elite's focus on issues like identity politics and social justice can seem out of touch and irrelevant. The fact that someone like Goldberg, who is a symbol of Hollywood success and wealth, can claim to understand the financial struggles of the working class only underscores this gap. As long as media figures continue to speak for the working class without truly understanding their experiences, they will only further alienate the very people they claim to represent. The failure of shows like The View to engage with real economic issues highlights a broader problem in American politics and media: the growing divide between the affluent elite and the struggling masses. Whoopi Goldberg's recent comments on The View, where she expressed sympathy for working-class Americans and claimed to understand their struggles because she works for a living, have ignited a fierce debate. Critics, including media personalities like Ana Kasparian, have been quick to accuse Goldberg of being out of touch with the very people she claims to represent. These criticisms are rooted in the stark contrast between Goldberg's lifestyle, marked by multi-million-dollar homes, a successful career spanning decades in Hollywood, and oddities of everyday life. As the country grapples with rising inequality and economic challenges, the need for more honest, open discussions about these issues has never been greater. Until the media begins to acknowledge their own privilege and address the concerns of the working class, their credibility will continue to erode, and the public's distrust of them will only grow.